Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished professional from India, Mr. Vivek Gaurav. Vivek, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thank you so much. And it's great to be back. This is, I think, our second episode in 1 year. I'm really looking forward to another engaging conversation today.
Thank you. Vivek is the Director of Operations of Cipla Health Ltd. He's an author of a book titled Life is a Wordplay, Go Win. And in his own words, he's a failed entrepreneur, a content creator, and a supply chain leader. So Vivek, let me start by asking you about your own journey. Tell me about your journey in brief.
So let me, since you mentioned about the book, let me start with my own quote in my book, which says, the biggest turning point of my life is the day I was born, and it has been amazing ever since. So I always believe that life throws at you a lot of positive, a lot of learning-oriented events, right? And so has been my life. So my childhood was spent in a small city called Patiala. Being a Punjabi and a son of working parents, I think boldness and maturity came hand in hand and very early in life. Fast forward to my first job after my MBA in Asian Paints. I think that was one big turning point because I believe that gave me a great ground level understanding of how corporate world works. I got my first lessons of people leadership there because in factory you get to interact and manage a lot of large teams and of various motivational levels. It has been 17 years of this corporate journey, but I think this corporate journey has been laced with a lot of self-driven, self-discovery journey also. In 2019, I brought out my first book. Then I ventured into public speaking on life and happiness. I do a lot of photography. So I think it has been a one crazy journey, I would say.
Wonderful. So, and we'll speak about all these things.
Sure.
So let me now move on and ask you that how did you find this passion of speaking and counseling on life and happiness?
So actually, I believe I've always been an observer of life. Plus, I've always thought I'm good at expressing myself freely using wit and humor. So as a result, in 2019, I launched my book called Life is a Wordplay. The book is a collection of my own quotations and one-liners about deep undertones of life expressed in a witty manner. One thing I made sure was that I connected with all my readers and understood what's their feedback about the book. One takeaway was that, one, they liked what I said, the way I expressed. They got the message also. So I thought it's now time to have a conversation rather than writing a book, because rather conversation comes very naturally to me rather than writing. Okay. So I thought that's easier and more engaging also. So I started what I call as Life and Happiness Talks under the name Happiness Unboxed. I have been doing sessions with corporates, with entrepreneurs, with MBA students. I also do one-on-one counseling. The basic premise of my conversation is not big motivational lectures. It's all about how to think in a moment of truth, in a moment of truth, of small events of life. I think I believe happiness lies in very small folds of day-to-day life and not in big jargon. So I think that's where.
So for my viewers and listeners, can you give me some examples of these moments of truth?
Yeah. So for example, I go to a party. Which I've been invited by a friend, and I've spent one full day searching for a gift for him, and I go to him, and when I hand over, in my mind, I thought he will hug me saying, "Oh, what a lovely gift," but he just acted casually, run of the mill, and said, "Thank you so much, good that you came," and whatever. So I get put off. I'm talking that kind of small moment, and then I get disturbed for next 2 hours, and I screw up my party also. Now, the point I think we'll talk later in this thing. What plays here in your mind? How do you change or react as per somebody else's reaction is how I treat my talks.
No, so why don't we continue with this? I mean, since you've given me this is a very fascinating example, and I think everyone goes through the same process. You take a gift and your guest. I mean, unlike the West, where it is often believed that the moment you get a gift, you open it in front of your guest.
Wow.
Here, we don't do that. We put it away and we open it separately.
Correct.
So how do you feel and how do you tackle it?
So if that would have happened with me and my friend would have not reacted, I think that operates in two layers, I believe, right? One, I believe everybody has a different way of expressing his happiness or her happiness. It's not that if I'm super excited and I would have hugged if somebody would have given me that gift, the other person would also do that. First of all, the reaction or the way I express happiness is different. So why do I expect him to react in a way which I would have done when I would have got that gift? That's one. Second is, when I go to a very deeper layer here, right? When you are buying a gift for somebody, you keep telling I'm doing it for him. But the actual reality is you are doing it for yourself, because that's giving you happiness, right? You have never informed him कि यार मैं तेरे लिए बहुत अच्छा gift लेके आ रहा हूँ. And I can give 1,000 examples how a father and a son, how parents expect things from children. So we'll talk about that. That's another emotional, very, very sensitive example. So I'm saying, you can't take others' reactions for granted. Secondly, I would repeat, and this is very important, that when you are spending effort, it's giving you that happiness because you think he's a close friend or she's a close friend. So you are doing it for your happiness. Don't spoil your happiness just by his breadth of the smile. That's it.
Well said. Well said. So when you say that you go and you have, you speak about speaking and counseling on life and happiness, what is the core theme that you work around in most of your talks?
Okay. So if you see my own life experiences, I'm 42, right? And of course, observing a lot of people around me, I think one of the biggest roadblocks is that we give too much mind space to others. Okay, too much focus on others, right? What will others think or perceive about me? My happiness is not there because somebody else is behaving in a certain way with me. So again, somebody else. So a few years ago, around 7-8 years ago, I told myself, let me start taking more charge of my life. Like, let me start, in a day-to-day life, in every moment of life, hold myself accountable and responsible for my own life. And it started changing things for me within myself, right? So hence, the core theme of my talk is you. That you are the center of universe. You are responsible. Everything starts and ends with you. Is my core.
Very interesting. And when you talk about the core theme being you, can you elaborate a little more? And please do give me some examples, because this, of course, goes back to our own scriptures, which is core theme being you is Aham Brahman.
Yes, absolutely.
So you're absolutely right.
In you, God resides in you. We all say all that. A lot of people say in their own way. I say in my own way, using English maybe, right?
So please do explain for my viewers and listeners, and give 1 or 2 examples.
Now I'll give you 4-5 elements, and every element is like an example only.
Sure.
So for example, start with blaming others. Let's start in a negative note, blaming others, right? So I keep telling that, my day in office was bad because my boss behaved with me in a certain way. I'm not happy in my life because my wife has X nature, right? Again, I believe that I have redeemed myself of everything, and I'm telling everybody else is responsible for me. That's one end. Motivation. A lot of people ask me, Vivek, what motivates you? Do you listen to videos? Do you read books? I say, most of us, especially middle-class folks, Ashutosh, and you would also relate to it, I believe, are at a place where we would have never imagined ourselves to be on today. We are doing things which we never imagined ourselves we would be doing when we were growing up. We are doing much better, I'm saying. So if our own life cannot motivate us, what else will? If our own journey cannot motivate us, what else will? Why do you need to look outside? Just look backwards.
Right.
And also add gratitude to yourself. Right? So that's another angle of you. First is blaming. So you are the center. Motivation. Again, you are the center. Third, very interesting. Comparison. We always love comparing ourselves with others in our mind. I compare myself with a neighbor and generally see what I don't have and he has. He has a luxury car. I don't have. But when he looks at me, the beauty is he says, these guys go on holiday every year. They don't because of some constraint. So when I compare, let's make it even. Yeah. Let's compare both what I don't have and what I have. Let's make it even. And again, the comparison is also again your hand. You, right? My book again has a quote saying the closest you can come in this life to changing the world is changing yourself. Correct? So, and there's again a deep undertone. If I want Ashutosh you to change because I don't like you, okay, I need to start. I can't tell you to go change because I mean that's not possible, right? You will just shoo me off. The point is, I start realizing what are your majburis in life as Ashutosh. What are your perspectives in life? Why are you behaving with me in a certain way? And when I start becoming more accepting of you by self-analyzing, I start changing. I start seeing you changing automatically. That's the big. And if I start doing with every person around me, I start seeing the world changing around me, and that's how world change. So everything lies here. Nowhere else. Let me take you another example. Last one. Life is a party. The problem starts when it start expecting return gifts. This is the first quote of my book. Which means everything we have put on misery because of expectations we have from life. Again, you are the center. So just last finishing thought on this. I believe happiness, there is a key to happiness. Khushiyon ki chabi. Correct? We have knowingly and mostly unknowingly given that happiness of key distributed to around for my happiness. I think it's time to grab that key back and keep it to yourself and saying, I hold this happiness. That's what I mean. That's what I mean when I say you.
Very interesting. So, since you've spoken about the key to happiness, what would be some of your top happiness tips you would give to our viewers and listeners?
Okay, 2. Postponing happiness, my favorite one. I will become happy once I buy a 3 BHK flat. Correct? I will become happy when I go for when I become associate vice president. Example. So we have very beautifully, but unknowingly associated happiness to something which is going to happen in future. As a result, we are constantly waiting for something to happen. As a result, we are telling ourselves, no, today I'm not happy because I will be happy because of that.
Correct.
As a result, we have forgotten what we have achieved so far. Again, your own journey I told about. Okay? So my point is, please start enjoying what you have. But the moment you enter your home and you switch on your light, that's where happiness starts from, because there are X percentage of homes in India who don't have light on switching on the phone or on the switch. Right? We have forgotten that, Baba. एक दिन का light cut होता है, one day light cut, and we all run helter-skelter. That's when something is snatched away for a day, you realize that importance. So that's one. Second is science of giving. It's a very, very spiritual concept of giving, right? Dan. Every religion, every spirituality talks about it. I have my own science behind it, which I started telling myself. The point is why this is important. This is important because when you give something to somebody, that moment you realize, you tell yourself that you are slightly more capable than him or her. That's one. You're slightly more fortunate than him or her. That gives you or fills you with a sense of gratitude towards what you have. And it's not necessarily money.
Correct.
I do a lot of social lectures, and that's my way of charity, because that's what I have, others may not have.
Correct.
Somebody may have money, somebody may have time, somebody have talent, somebody has something else. So my point is, the science of giving is very important. And it has to be done structurally. So these are the 2 happiness tips I keep giving my folks.
Very, very interesting. And your first point of comparison takes me to that very, very old saying that I used to cry when I saw I had no shoes till I saw a person who had no feet.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So very powerful. Thank you. Then my next question to you is that what are some of the top challenges or problems people come to you with?
Yeah, interesting. So I'll give you 2 examples, one from a corporate conversation, one from a personal conversation. From a corporate conversation, no guesses for it. People talk about boss and report relationship. Okay. And reporters talk about their bosses. So that's more prominent. And they say, my boss is tough with me. He or she behaves with a certain manner and all that. So I listen to all that. I think this is a very human thing. Okay. And I have 3, I explain to them in a very different manner. I say, forget about you going to him or her and talk to it. You first have to solve it in your mind in 3 different layers. First layer is, you need to suppose today your annoyance level is 100%. Let me use that mathematical scale with him, right? He has come and shouted at you. First, you have to think is, your supervisor has much more bigger pressure than you. He runs a bigger department than you. He might have come from a meeting where he would have got a bigger banging than you. So he wants to make things happen. So if you consider and think of that coolly, it takes down your annoyance from 100 to at least 90%. 10% you have saved. Second, what are the positives you see in him on a day-to-day basis? Has he added value to you in life? I'm sure he would have, right? He just because for a moment he's sounding you as a bad person doesn't mean he's generally like that, right? So count those moments, right? That will take down another 20%, right? So you will not have 70%. Third, do you have a capability? And everybody should have a capability of removing the message from the tone, message from the emotion. Yes, shouted at you. What is the message he's trying to give? Just focus on that, please. And this happens everywhere, right? That takes another 30% away from your annoyance level. The last, I believe, Ashutosh, everybody who does anything in this world, he thinks that's the most appropriate thing to be done at that point of time. even if it is a gory crime. उसके लिए उस मौके पे वो सबसे सही काम है वो करना. Even if I slap somebody, even if I do something else to somebody, it's the more. So for him, he's blinded by that. That this, the way I'm shouting at Mr. Vivek Gaurav or somebody else, this is the best. This is the best thing to be done at time. You can't correct him at that point. Correct? You have to wait for some. So if you just yes, but in these 4 points, you have not even gone and spoken to him. You're just processing it in your mind. So your annoyance level has already come down to 40%. Now please go and talk to him eventually next day.
Correct.
This is one example. I'll take another example. Personal one, very emotional one. Expectations from children. People say my children don't respect me, though I have done a lot about him. The friend wala example, gift wala example, take it to 30x emotional level.
Correct.
Parent children, right? Now I have again 3 levels of dealing with it to people, and some people have I've got those sessions where people have become emotional thinking about that. Was this your decision to bring him into this world, or it was his decision to tell you to bring me into this world? No, he was not there. It was your choice, not his choice.
Correct.
So you have decided to bring a life to this world. Now please deal with it. That's one. Correct. There's a selfish motive behind you bringing him into this world.
Correct.
That's one. Number 2, growing up, right? You cared for him or her because that made you happy.
Correct.
He didn't even know what does a toy mean till the time you showed him a toy. But you think, or I have bought a toy for him which is so expensive. Because you want to see that smile on his face. So it's your selfish motive that you did that. Actually. But you keep telling yourself that I'm doing it for you. Third, as a result, जिस दिन से वो पैदा हुआ है, the moment your son has got born or daughter has got born, as a result, you have opened a mental account in his name. And you're clocking everything you have done for him or her. And now that mental account is full and you want a equal debit to that credit. Right? So that's not going to happen, please. Right? Okay. Third and last, your kids, whichever age, they are fighting their own battles in their mind. Please understand. Correct? You know, you never told them or have a contract with them ki, if you behave with me in a certain way at 27, I will do this for you. Otherwise, I'll not. Did you do that conversation? No, you didn't do the conversation because that was not required. So why are you spoiling your happiness of what you have done so far by just saying you're not responding back or reciprocating? That's my thought.
Very interesting. I have time for 2 more questions, Vivek. And my next question is that you talk a lot about discovering yourself through photography. Tell me a little bit about this and how have you been able to internalize so much with your photography?
So Ashutosh, I'm a natural. So my love lies in expressing myself through book, through happiness speaking, through counseling. Then I thought I also love photography and I also love words. Right. So I combined both of them. I would pick anything insignificant, random, unnoticeable around me, and visualize it and see what this scene is telling me. Right. So I started my blog called Lens Time Stories by VG on Instagram. The tagline says spotting life and wisdom around me. Right. So what does it mean? I visualize a scene and I say what it tells me, and then I sort of create a visual treat for my viewers through photography and web of words. I'll give you an example. When you're walking around in a garden or just on the roadside, you will see walls where there are cracks and there are small plants or saplings coming out from a wall, right? It can be one of the most insignificant things around you. You would have noticed thousands or not even noticed thousands of them. So when I saw that, after this so-called enlightenment, I thought of a quote. I clicked that photo. I thought of a quote saying, if you're hungry enough, a crack or a crevice is all you need to plant yourself.
Very interesting. Okay.
What does it mean? I don't think I need to even explain that. If you are feeling unsuccessful, that means you might lack passion. And if you are passionate and hungry, even a small opportunity can make you plant in this world. Another example, very minuscule example, very mundane example. You are sitting in office or home. You have water bottle on your table. You would see small air bubbles in the water bottle. Or not see, but see, unnoticed, ignored. When I click that photo, I see what it says to me. Then I write a quote saying, an air bubble enjoys its identity only till the time it stays in a hostile environment. It is called air bubble because it's in the water. The moment it's out, it's called air. So no bubble. Which means the most successful individuals get groomed when they are in difficult environments. They get their identity there. They get their pehchan from there. So that's my idea of photo and quote. I call them photo stories. I have a collection of many of them. Very soon you will see me formalize all that, in some way or the other.
Very interesting. And my last question to you, and this is for the thousands of viewers and listeners who will listen to our conversation. What would you say is your advice to them about handling failure?
Okay, interesting one. So again, let me revoke the idea of you here. Again, everything is linked there. And please, I will advise your viewers, your listeners, please, wherever you are settled with the problem, bring that you into it. Instead of avoiding to bring that you, the other. Okay, now let me go back to failure. You know what, Ashutosh, according to me, again, this is all my own mental invention. What is the biggest reason of failure? I wish we have a live audience and we got some answers. The biggest reason of failure is how you define the failure. That's it. Why? Because most of the time we consider ourselves failure because we are using the yardsticks which are laid down by the world for us.
Correct.
By others around us. I call myself a failed entrepreneur. You mentioned in the beginning, right? Why I call myself a failed entrepreneur? Because it is a satire to the world. Yeah. Guys, you guys think I'm a failed entrepreneur, right? But I think that was a more successful venture, although it shut down after 2 years. Why? Because me and my wife quit thoughtfully and gracefully. Quitting was a decision. Not quitting on time would have been a failure. For example, the learnings and the experiences which we got was a success. Not using those learnings is a failure. But an outsider very simply would put startup, shut down, failure. That's the example I want to say. And you are surrounded with many examples. So please don't let anybody else lay down the definition of failure for you. Similar case is a success. Don't anybody else lay down the value of success. All these corporate systems, all these personal systems, they are all laid down very complex web of definitions around you. And we all are, judging ourselves with that. Again, the idea of you, Ashutosh.
Very interesting. Well said. And on that note, Vivek, thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. Thank you for speaking to me about so many different philosophies that you have developed based on your own experiences. And it's been so wonderful learning from you about speaking and counseling, the power of you, speaking to you about how you support people, when they come to you for support, thank you for telling us about your happiness tips. It was fascinating to hear you talk about how little examples in photography give a message. And I loved your example of the water bubble. Finally, thank you also for speaking to me about how a lot of us can handle failure. Thank you and good luck.
Great speaking to you and again giving me an opportunity to put my ideas across to the larger world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.